Welcome. Today's post is Malone AI and Programming. Published on August 31, 2023. Did you know that NBA star Allen Iverson was born on the same day that Sony released Betamax, the infamous competitor to VHS tapes? Or that Post Malone's rise to fame began with his hit song, White Iverson? Here are the topics we'll be decoding today. You can always find this list in the description below. If you enjoy this video, please press the like button, and subscribe for weekly full-length blog posts, and shorter, more shareable videos. Let's begin. Note, the first part of this post has been edited by AI as an experiment. AI, Post Malone. I strive to make these threads educational, aiming not only to familiarize you with specific concepts but also to equip you with methods that enable you to undertake such analyses independently. For instance, consider a recent request I received to decipher the enigma that is Post Malone. When faced with the task of unraveling a subject about which you possess minimal knowledge, the approach you adopt becomes paramount. A common misstep I frequently observe involves attempting to untangle recent news surrounding a celebrity as if it exists in isolation. For instance, on August 11, 2023, headlines proclaimed that stars akin to Post Malone had reaped significant financial benefits from COVID grants. Yet, what exactly does this signify? Naturally, this query cannot be resolved in isolation. The most effective method to decode involves meticulous research. However, this pursuit should be anything but haphazard. Initiating your investigation with current news is akin to commencing a story from its conclusion, rather than its inception. In light of this, consider posing a pivotal question: what prompted the creation of this symbolic representation in the first place? Why was this symbol necessary to create? In the case of Post Malone, his rise to prominence can be traced back to the hit track, White Iverson, a foundation upon which we can begin our journey. In this song, he emphatically likens himself to Allen Iverson on numerous occasions. Delving into Allen Iverson's legacy reveals his monikers, The Answer, and AI. Interestingly, AI can also signify artificial intelligence. White Iverson is a song where he asserts himself to be like Allen Iverson over and over. AI. AI equals artificial intelligence. AI symbolism equals the programmed masses. The symbol of Terminator is tied to the upcoming Internet, Skynet, which represented a threat. The threat of masses having access to the information to figure things out. August 2, 1977. John Connor born T2. August 3, 1977. MKUltra hearing Senate. Symbol of just before public disclosure. This ties into the hero of the first film as well. Kyle Reese. August 2, 1977. John Connor born T2. August 3, 1977. MKUltra hearing Senate. September 5, 1977. Terminator hero Reese first role pilot, James at 15, child moving across country. September 16, 1977. Terminator hero Reese second role pilot, Logan's Run, survivors of a nuclear war are forced into an execution game. September 5, 1977 is also the date Voyager 1 launched. August 3, 1977. MKUltra hearing Senate, Pluto. August 3, 1977. TRS 81st phone line connected computers released. Plus 17. August 20, 1977. Voyager 2 launch. It was all timed to the proto-internet. The solution to this threat of the internet was in how information was to be presented. February 17, 1989. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, phone booth equals 56K connection symbol. March 12, 1989. Internet official birth. The answer is in that film as having the past not a literal retelling of facts but a stoner daydream. Both it and Terminator involved going back in time, one symbolized the threat and the other the solution. The hero, Reese, being a symbol of 1978 Reese's Pieces unmarked. Symbol of anonymity for aliens. I go more into ET symbolism here. The point though is a goal of not letting the US government hold their strings. Post Malone and AI. Now we can return to Post Malone, which invoked AI symbolism. But why does Post Malone endeavor to equate himself with AI? Even if we've identified the symbol, we don't know at first if he's for it or against it. We have to interpret in context. Read the lyrics closely. You gone, think about me when I'm gone. I need that money like the ring I never won. Although Allen Iverson never clinched a championship, why center a song around this aspect? Consequently, we glean a broad yet functional direction in deciphering Post Malone's intentions. His symbolism is interwoven with themes of inadequacy within the context of the programmed masses. We need to verify we are on the right trail. If while digging patterns can't be found consistently, you aren't on the right trail. For example, Allen Iverson, the AI, who never won. What com is he tied to? June 7, 1975. Allen Iverson born. June 7, 1975. Betamax is born. Betamax embodies a story of failure. Despite its superior technological attributes, it ultimately capitulated to the ascendancy of VHS the following year. Getting a birthdate tied to a famous and easy-to-understand symbol is lucky. Post Malone also has a birthdate symbol, as he was born on the 4th of July. A symbol of American independence. The end of cooperation with the global power structure of the time. We now have enough to decode his name. Austin Richard Post. Post Malone. Post Malone equals Post Alone. As in a message with no MEDA echo. Note he has face tattoos. I've seen many a meme about how that's the quickest way to tell someone to not take you seriously. Note what his tattoos are about. He has a tattoo of JFK on his arm. This is an example of someone that tried to get the truth out and was stopped short. I decode those efforts in here. He basically took the MK Ultra documentation as leverage. ARM symbolism. ARM is used to symbolize a media push. October 6, 2016. Cable guy breaks John's arm in disgusting tape. October 7, 2016. NBC/ABC/CBS, cable, airs disgusting tape of Donald John Trump. This is how cable news prepared to break the campaign of Trump. They knew the Access Hollywood video was going to hit and sent a message to convey the importance of it. That this was the big moment that Trump wouldn't be able to laugh it off, hence cable guy, news, breaks the funny bone. If you watch the video you'll see that before the match began they already had funny bone written on a card. Because they already knew what was going to happen and were sending a message about it. This is what the cable guy posted on Instagram the next day. Get it? Foxworthy is beaten up. As in the only news channel that wasn't over 90% negative. Here's a sampling of quotes from the media you can verify in any search engine. It's all coordinated. When you know the trick to symbolism you can go through the stars the day before Access Hollywood and see a lot more. Note Tom Hanks suggesting, girls, to be outraged. For a party at Normandy, D-Day War. And, Galaxy of Stars Assemble, a reference to the quote at the heart of things as well as a call for unity in outrage. Post Malone. After the media had turned against JFK he had little choice but to rally the public in person. This is what created the opening to take him out. This distinction in media allies is also what decided the Betamax and VHS war. Betamax was only made by Sony, VHS was closer to open source. Remember Post Malone equals Independence Day. Going it alone. Despite all we've learned so far we still don't know how Post Malone was used in specific terms. Let's go to his actual origin. He hit it big with White Iverson, but his actual debut was a mixtape called August 26th. Hyping up a message to hit that day and failing. It's not Iverson, but White Iverson. White equals exposure. His biggest after that was Congratulations. November 4, 2016. Congratulations with Quavo. November 4, 2016. Paris Agreement Global Binding International Treaty. Why with Q? Good thing I decoded the Paris Agreement before. April 22, 2016. Paris Accords Global Agreement to Lower Emissions. April 22, 2016. Ghislaine Maxwell Deposition about Epstein. Symbol to not release, i.e. to not white what is held. The music video ends with a TV destroyed in reverse. January 23, 2017. Post Malone Congratulations video featuring Q. January 23, 2017. Mike Pompeo CIA head. Though I posted that last connection, I wasn't sure how to interpret it. I've established Post Malone symbolism as a message being isolated to mitigate, but how is that accomplished? To answer, let's look closer at his debut. See a pattern? Stone plus Cold plus Austin. What I mean is, do any bells ring when I note what his debut album is? Debut album, Stony. Debut songs, Cold. Debut artist first name, Austin. First song is about drinking. This couldn't be more clear. His first album is constantly referencing Stone Cold Steve Austin. Why? Steve Austin is one of about 5 pro wrestlers that typically get ranked as the most famous ever. He is credited with beginning the Attitude Era at the WWF. He is famous for being a trash-talking redneck constantly drinking beer on TV. A role model. Stone Cold began his rise through the WWF. And he began at the WWF-backed ECW the same week Austin Post Malone was born, as his biography points out. Note they show him spitting beer on an opponent in ECW at the time. The answer to what Stone Cold Steve Austin symbolizes. To understand, I want you to keep in mind Stone Cold is well known as the start of the WWF's Attitude Era. The dramatic revival of the brand. What came after Stone Cold's Attitude Era? March 30, 2003. Stone Cold Steve Austin last match. March 27, 2003. John Cena first finisher Attitude Adjustment. Cena has been the face of the company post Steve Austin, and John Cena's career began right as Austin's career ended. Austin's Attitude Era, Cena's Attitude Adjustment. This is a big discovery because I already decoded John Cena. He ties into racial pushing. March 27, 2003. John Cena, Basic Thugonomics, theme song begins, white rapper push. March 30, 2003. WrestleMania 19 final Stone Cold Steve Austin pro match. Stone Cold returned as a guest referee at WrestleMania, where John Cena's dominance began. Winning the USA title. The John Cena era was about pushing racial hypersensitivity. It was part of the push creating the outrage culture we all know today. The Stone Cold era that preceded it was building a foundation of a giant pack of negative attributes to be emulated. With all this in mind, we can understand Post Malone symbolism better. Remember, it's about Post alone, as in mitigating a message. How have they mitigated his messages? Read the lyrics to his third most popular song. The song promotes having sex with as many women as possible and self-promoting being rich and owning things. Being better than other people. This is the caricature the press portrayed of Trump. This song was released in late 2017 as that was ever escalating. Video has hyper-violence, constantly cursing while talking about having orgies, and talking the show probably ending with his arrest. This was of course during Mueller, so that angle had to be included. Stone Cold wasn't a character focused on sexism, but remember Post Malone had the Stone Cold symbolism starting in 2015 with White Iverson. This was when the expected candidate was Jeb. So they revived an anti-Texas, Bush-era symbol. The official reason for the rise of the drunken Texas redneck is due to a scandal called Curtain Call. Several top WWF wrestlers pulled back the curtain more than anyone wanted them to. As in they showed the audience too much. What did Stone Cold do to fix it? They replaced HHH with Stone Cold as the winner of their next big pay-per-view. This was his breakout moment. A busted lip, and so his mouth was stitched up. As in keeping something or someone quiet. Another nickname of his is the Texas Rattlesnake, and his first big match at that pay-per-view was Jake the Snake, as he had become a reformed Christian promoting the Bible. This is where Stone Cold coined his famous catchphrase, Austin 3:16, about beating the Christian. In fact, he coined both his famous catchphrases that night. As it was followed with his, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. Mick Foley calls out his stitched lip as adding to the appeal. He talks about this serial killer and how he wants to tie his character to him. WWF give him a list of childish names to use: Fong McFrost, Snowman, Cool Luke, Chili McFreeze, Cool Cat. This is a famous story leading to the name. It represents the difference in approach. And so after those childish names his wife names him after hot tea warning. He then grows a goatee. T/T. He gets some Darth Vader/Raider style black boots and bills himself from Victory, Texas instead of California as he had been. Marriage calms. September 13, 2000. Rattlesnake Steve Austin marriage, weds, Marshall, at Little White Las Vegas. September 16, 2000. Rattlesnake Diamondback kills 2-year-old. September 17, 2000. Austin Powers Rockstar Games Tarantula. February 2003. Steve Austin divorce. March 2003. Steve Austin final match. That gives us a clue that the Austin Powers films are likely playing into the same symbolism as Steve Austin. Steve Austin's storylines are about violence and alcohol but not sex, and that's the primary motive of Austin Powers. I noticed the films begin with being frozen. This of course could tie into Stone Cold and the origin in the Ice Man who kept victims in a freezer. I need to dig more. June 6, 1984. The Iceman Richard Kuklinski bankruptcy filed. June 6, 1984. Supreme Court upholds Gacy's conviction for 33 murders. June 6, 1984. Tetris first released. Iceman was head of an evil ring of criminals goes bankrupt the same day Gacy denial and Tetris. That gives us a clue. This is about KGB cells. I noticed that was on June 6. June 6, 1975. Dodgers stolen base record. June 6, 1975. President Ford ceremony to receive MK Ultra report. White Iverson. June 7, 1975. Allen Iverson, The Answer, born. June 7, 1975. Sony introduced Betamax. June 10, 1975. Report on CIA abuses in Cultra. In case you forgot, that connection was from the beginning of the post. This dig started with White Iverson, but has quickly become about a lot of connected things. Stone Cold's hair is attributed to the insubordinate white boxer, Coolidge, in Pulp Fiction. Cuts his own strings, just like cutting the hair. I'm just noticing the potential cold/cold connection. Pulp Fiction is famous for ushering in darker Hollywood films. Bob Dole attacked it, given it was about the most popular movie of the day. Sounds like self-sabotage. May 31, 1995. Bob Dole big media event criticizing Q Tarantino films. May 31, 1995. Oakland Elephants base stealing record. Republicans gain seats Congress in exchange for White House. Coolidge. Might be a reference to the conservative President Reagan styled himself after. This fits the dynamic given the strong economy of the Clinton years with a Republican Senate/House. Allowing executive control in exchange for not crashing. Tying to that Pulp Fiction Stone Cold origin. Texas Jake the Snake was the start of the Texas Rattlesnake Stone Cold Steve Austin's rise. Jake returned to the WWF after 4 years, January 1996. Same as another Tarantino film. I wouldn't connect it if it were just that, but the story is complete with a pastor having a crisis of faith that loses at the end. Reminds me of the two snakes and the taboo rattlesnake with mouth sewn shut destroying the Christian Bible pusher. Rich Men of Richmond. August 14, 2023. Post Malone shares the secret behind his 60-pound weight loss. Symbol of the thing he symbolized: shrinking. Tied to Joe Rogan. I.e. giant voice and not hard left. That weight loss calm is new this week. Often it's just one of many calms asserting the same thing. Which is why I find it interesting Musk just promoted a song with lyrics about needing weight loss. But the song is far more interesting than that. I strongly suggest you listen to that video. Nobody knew who this guy was, and within days he hit #1 in country. Even if you don't like country, you might like this song. Lyrics calling out Epstein Island and all the efforts to control people. Country is my least favorite type of music, and I like this song more than any song I've heard in years. It's something special. And the rapid rise is a message sent. His journey to mental health and sobriety is a part of it. The old system where stars are the exclusive property of banks and blackmailers, the same in many cases, is obsolete. Uplifting but gravely serious messaging is the path forward. People will begin moving in the right direction. In theory, anyone can upload anything that can be seen by everyone, but this is why people are herded into controlled environments and fed disinformation. Bad info makes for bad choices. We are kept ignorant of many simple things that would improve our lives dramatically. Part of this manipulation is not necessarily with malicious intent. Powerful people own companies that sell a vast array of consumables. Thus powerful gain wealth through consumption. They attempt to increase consumption by driving the masses psychologically. In some cases even creating a great need where before there was little to nothing. Like the sudden explosion of the trans movement. Ever paid over $100 for a prescription? How much money is there to be made in medications? So they push. Before, I talked about Stone Cold Steve Austin pushing alcohol. I realized something interesting as well. I decoded most of his name. But not the Stone or Steve. I also noticed his biggest and most frequent opponent was The Rock. Stone and Rock. It's kind of funny, I had the hypothesis before I even began this dig that The Rock might symbolize Black Rock. But I hadn't checked it yet. If he's not the symbol for them, it feels like a missed opportunity, but I don't decode on whims, it's a hypothesis to check. I bring this up because Black Rock came from Black Stone and both are strongly connected in ownership. Black Stone was founded by a Steve. How big do you think their stake in alcohol is? They are one of, if not the biggest owner of the top alcohol brand in the world. That pushing for alcohol drinking is starting to get very logical. My hypothesis is looking more likely. But even if I'm right, and I need to do more research to say, that doesn't mean motives were overtly malicious. Rarely are comms sent with a twirling mustache. For example, note this spy movie with a CIA-like private intelligence service posing as a whiskey distillery. Cold came from a mass murderer Iceman. It's possible the alcohol push was with a promise for moral ops. That doesn't excuse psychological damage as children picked up alcoholism from a role model. But it does give a plausible justification. I don't want to blindly condemn or praise. When possible, I'd like to show as many sides to a circumstance as possible. I won't ever be like mainstream media with a finger point and screaming evil. Or conversely blowing kisses at the designated hero of the month. Now we have a hypothesis of The Rock equals Black Rock and Stone Cold equals Black Stone. I looked for patterns. June 1, 1996. The Rock pro wrestler debut. June 7, 1996. The Rock film, fourth biggest film of year. Not sure yet what to make of it, but The Rock had Q Tarantino as a writer. Now I said that was the debut of The Rock, he actually didn't adopt that name until November 17, 1996. November 17, 1996. The Rock WWE debut Survivor Series. November 16, 1996. Jingle All the Way released, film about massive toy crazes like the Cabbage Patch dolls. This gives a clue. That same month the Tickle Me Elmo doll became the hot item. Remember, the movie was based off the Cabbage Patch craze. The first thing that comes up when searching Tickle Me Elmo is it was the next coming of the Cabbage Patch dolls. The film is comms for that push. Which fits with BlackRock, as they own around 3 to 10% of many if not most of the companies that stood to profit from a craze like that. In fact, I spent 10 minutes searching every company I could, and I could not find a single company they didn't own that amount of. I'm sure there are many they don't own, but the fact that every company that came into my head turned out to be partly owned by them is telling. Especially given my comms work, so the companies that came into my head are going to be ones most tied to that world. So why the promotions in 1996? I suspect it has something to do with hedge funds which Hay began using then. They allow money to be moved easier for short selling. Note their rapid rise in assets. Right after hedge funds' assets double and then double again. 1988, Blackstone offshoot later named BlackRock. 1988, Aladdin software is the core of BlackRock. 1992, Aladdin Disney released. 1992, BlackRock adopts name BlackRock. BlackRock owns 6.6% of Disney, no info available on when they bought it. Sequels to Aladdin. Only one had Robin Williams. August 13, 1996, Aladdin and the King of Thieves. The Rock began in 1996. Software, Aladdin, asset, liability, debt, derivative investment network. I doubt they had to call it that. Wish fulfillment and/or Middle East partnerships. Breakthrough. BlackRock isn't just the name of the Blackstone offshoot, it's also the longtime nickname of CBS HQ. In 1988, BlackRock, CBS shrank as they hired Blackstone to handle the $2 billion sale of CBS Records to Sony. 1988 equals Blackstone created BlackRock. Follow it closely. 1988 CBS hires Blackstone to sell CBS Records, which was part of BlackRock HQ, CBS HQ. This is a separate event from the following. 1988 Blackstone, investment company, creates BlackRock, multinational investment company. The deal was finalized 1987, Black Monday, an unexpected stock market crash. In the 1980s, a $2 billion international trade was a huge deal. The changing of hands to Japan, the largest record company in the world. Think about what that means. CBS appears to have sold the assets because they were in danger of a hostile takeover. CBS being HQ with BlackRock and Blackstone being the one they put in charge. I doubt that's coincidence, likely both have the same strings. Blackstone the wallet and CBS the voice. And then BlackRock is created as an offshoot, permanently invoking that original deal. CBS equals Studio 54, which after being sold became a 1977-1980 celebrity sex dungeon. This is potentially highly relevant because December 5, 2019, BlackRock exec Mark Wiseman ousted over affair with employee. December 8, 2019, Lost Women of NXIVM documentary. December 9, 2019, BlackRock CBS's historic New York BlackRock headquarters to be sold. How does NXIVM connect with CBS? Doesn't even require decoding, actually. January 24, 2006, CBS and Warner combine for new broadcast network that CW. CW equals Smallville. Smallville equals Allison Mack. And she was the celebrity face of NXIVM proceedings. Turned in evidence of the planning meetings for branding newer members. I found another BlackRock, a play and then movie about a 1989 sexual assault of a child that remains convictionless. To talk about the event, they created a fictional city called BlackRock. Despite her being only 14 years old and tragically murdered, the media blamed her. Or at least that's what the Wikipedia article said. I haven't done the research necessary to confirm the claim that the media blamed her. The case was fought for reopening until 1997, which is when the film came out. Potentially messaging explaining things are kept dark. The core conflict in BlackRock the movie is after the tragedy a witness has an inability because he can't handle it being public. This conflict destroys him. That sounds like a message on why things are kept dark, but it's just a hypothesis for now. It's such a specific name they choose, and the crime was 1989, just a year after BlackRock became a thing. Note the author is named Nick Enright, and he was encouraged by his teacher, Israel, to write this. I bring this up because I just checked out the author and March 30, 2003, Nick Enright BlackRock writer death. March 30, 2003, Stone Cold Steve Austin sudden retirement after final match with The Rock. Remember Stone Cold equals Blackstone and Rock equals Black Rock? So yeah, this is unlikely to be coincidence. The symbolism of the end of the guy behind Black Rock and the end of the guy acting as a symbol for Black Rock / Blackstone as a com fits. The connections between Black Ops and Black Rock are becoming clear. It's a banking symbol, but the end result is ops funding. This entire thread began with Post Malone. Post Malone equals Post Alone. Ops to prevent a message from reaching the masses. To keep any problem post isolated. I tied this to his first big hit, AI, Allen Iverson. About a basketball player. A song about how he never won a ring. If we take Malone plus never won a basketball ring despite top stats. That defines a very specific NBA player. Ever heard of Karl Malone? Remember the alone symbolism. July 24, 1963, Karl Malone, MK Mirror, born. July 24, 1963, first mass wedding held publicly. July 26, 1963, IG report for MKUltra, which becomes the primary paper used to question the CIA practices. Thus we get the origin of Malone symbolism. The point is clear here. He is symbolism in the same way Post Malone became. In fact, this is clearly the origin point of that. An intent to prevent mass spreading awareness about MKUltra. This investigation is what led to the assassination, something I already decoded. The primary example given that was documented was the work of Ewan Cameron, the top psychology guy in the world for a long while. Cameron equals camera on. The ball player's name in full is Carl Anthony Malone, Cam as in an MK camera. Remember the vehicle for disclosure about the CIA was the Church Committee. As in the force behind the attempt was people tied to those networks. Thus a mass Christian wedding by Moonies. And in modern day we have this com tied to it. An alone, from the other side. Carl equals MK car, driving, com. The MK car makes it to finals but loses to the biggest mic i.e. microphone. June 13, 1997, NBA Finals final game Michael Jordan beats Karl Malone. June 13, 1997, Carmageddon famously controversial driving game running of pedestrians. June 13, 1997, Speed 2. Clues to the conversation being had. June 1, 13/1997 NBA Finals. June 3, 1997, Wu-Tang's top album, famously controversial. June 12, 1997, Princess Diana famous and controversial in the UK landmine removal speech. June 13, 1997, jury recommends death for McVeigh bomber. Wu-Tang's connection with controversy ties into Carmageddon like controversy. The famously controversial Thrill Kill, the only game to receive an adults-only rating for violence instead of sex, was reskined using their branding. It helps to remember the way the MK is discussed in comms is in regard to psychological driving. So violence tied to cars, Carmageddon, is a perfect fit. The issue at heart appears to be in what to be done about the reality of MK cells, landmines, around the world. Cells kept in sleep mode until needed. It acts as the hostage situation keeping people in check. The answer on what to do was complicated by the fact that speaking out against it led to being targeted by it. The solution? The history of Princess Diana's landmines walk, and how Prince Harry is honoring her legacy. The solution reached by some is tied to surveillance in an effort to identify cells, effectively following them. April 24, 1998. Following, Christopher Nolan first picture. Filling out a local Pokédex of monsters. April 23, 1998. Pokémon Company founded. Remember, Nolan was behind the Batman with the mass tracking. The following film is about following someone else. A struggling unemployed writer trying to write a first novel. The path for people who engage in MK trading for fame. That other film I highlighted from the same day of Following was Sliding Doors. A split timeline film about the consequences of Hell, getting on a train. It was the origin of the Slim Shady Stan song. Burning in the Flames. The point being the conflict that comes with picking sides. It was said to have been frequently compared to Blind Chance, a banned movie for 6 years until 1987. Another film with split timeline: in one he chooses to join the Communist Party and in the other anti-communists. Film ends with him dying in plane explosion. Just like with Sliding Doors, once a side is spurned it leads to sudden misfortunes. It's a no-win situation for many in that world. Trying to fight evil leads to stepping on a landmine. The one surefire way to remove the threat of those MK ops and the like is revealing that world, but that would mean revealing the comms world. That looks to have been rejected, and so instead it moved in a direction of mass tracking and further psychological pushes. Earlier I covered the origins of Stone Cold Steve Austin. His original appearance inspired by Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction. Stone Cold ushered in Attitude Era, WWF Dark Stories, and Pulp Fiction did that in films. I noted a pattern but didn't decode. Violence popularization in cinema. So let's try and decode it now. I believe the symbolism ties into how Bruce Willis was used as a symbol. To understand that we have to decode his pop culture breakout moments. He has starred in over 100 major films, but when did he become a household name? The answer is Die Hard. Everyone knows Die Hard. It may be the most famous action movie of all time. Just like Pulp Fiction, it was famous for ultra-violence, both films likened to Clockwork Orange. Die Hard used the same music as Clockwork Orange for the same purpose. This reinforces his connection with hyper-violence, but it also begs a question. Why was he chosen for an iconic role tied to hyper-violence? There are many stories of how inexplicable his casting was. Inexplicable choices in Hollywood tend to be comms. His only major casting prior to Die Hard was in a show called Moonlighting, a show focused on the relationship of Bruce Willis as a chauvinistic sexist and his feminist boss. The sexual tension of the two is said to be the core of the show from start to finish. This show appears to be focused on a psychological push. Note the lyrics of the theme song with the same name as the show. Nothing could change you, set and sure of the way. The most famous episode focuses on sexism bias. It was also the last ever role of Orson Welles. It inspired the creators of the Zelda cartoon in the 80s to design the infamously cringe-inducing relationship between Link and the princess. He constantly tries to get kisses and fails, and she demeans him constantly. This gives us a cipher on the point of it all. The point is pushing psychologically. To give men and women a distorted view of one another. When they first meet, he says to himself how he will never change and then hits his receptionist with a basketball and trash can. Symbol of treating women like garbage. It puts a sexist male stereotype into a subservient relationship with his new feminist boss. They begin with her taking everything from him. This explains the stories about the inexplicable casting of Bruce Willis in this. He was a nobody before this. But his co-star, Sybil Shepherd, was a famous actress, and her top billing in this show is part of these comms. It emphasizes the push to lower the ego of a man. He begins by thinking she's a Playboy bunny. So he acts a fool, and she delivers the punchline at his expense. That's the show. Reconcile this role tied to diminishing male ego with Die Hard. Wall Street Journal puts John McClane as the most macho name in any movie. From demeaning masculinity to reveling in it. Using him to usher in violent movies is meaningful. The pregnancy of Sybil Shepherd delayed the show, allowing Bruce Willis to get out of his contract to play the role. The first episode after Die Hard, Sybil has a miscarriage, which is acted out in show by Bruce Willis as the baby in the womb refusing to be born. I need to decode Sybil Shepherd to fully decode this. Her character is a famous shampoo model. Cleaning hair. Hair equals string calm and Bruce Willis hair. It's mentioned in the first episode her character is returning to work after 10 years. This mirrors Shepherd's career. Her breakout role and the next famous role both involved a man falling in love with her and leaving his wife/girlfriend for her. In both cases this ends up badly for the man. In one of these films, Sonny dumps a girl for her, and in the other the girl dumped is Berlin. I may spend more time decoding these later, as Sonny is used in a lot of comms to represent Sony. June 7, 1965. Sony and Cher breakout hit recorded, I Got You Babe. June 7, 1965. Sony introduces its home videotape recorder. So what does Sybil Shepherd symbolize? Sybil Shepherd. Shepherd equals controlling sheep. Sybil equals Psy equals Psy. Bill equals funding, as in funded psychological driving. This symbol is especially clear in her most famous film, Taxi Driver. Her character works as a campaign volunteer for a presidential candidate. They date, and her rejection of him as disgusting leads him on a downward descent. He finds a child prostitute and right afterwards attempts to murder the politician she introduced him to. True to her name, Cy Shepherd, it looks like she is acting as his psychological drive. Her relationship with him calculated to plant ideas on targeting and giving motivation by breaking up. The assassination fails, but notice he does kill someone she approves of at the end. Update: hurricanes. What comes after Hurricane Hilary? Hurricane Idalia, which means behold the sun. Sunlight equals visibility. Things long hidden being exposed. I noticed Cattard was trending. I have never seen him trend, so of course I checked what he was posting. Look at this sequence. Calm before the storm, evidence coming that will force Biden out. Recent tweets. Trump opening the door, letting light in to expose both parties. In regard to the hurricane, it'll be daylight soon, so I can see what's going on better. And note the 0 minutes of press coverage given to Biden scandals. I.e. pre-sunlight. X highlighting the scandals. Because after all, this is the platform that will allow discussion of them. Will it force mainstream media to look? Is it even necessary? I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to see how these stories spread. So we had Hurricane Hilary, followed by Hurricane Idalia, which translates to behold the sun. Here's an interesting hurricane fact a reader dug up. And in that hurricane the hurricane hunters were grounded. Hunter Biden calm. Grounded until they fix a flight control mechanism. Which may symbolize the mechanism to spread the story about Biden. Some kind of issue being corrected to maximize the impact. Ends with, we're just getting started with hurricane season. Trending now. The biggest trending video on the day I blog post this is Rich Men North of Richmond interview. A song about wishing to see powerful people care more about children rather than going to Epstein Island to get blackmailed with children. Interesting interview that starts by talking about all these different AI remixes of the song with different voices and overlay. AI is being used as a symbol of the programmed masses. Check start of post if you've forgotten why. This, I believe, has been a taboo subject until recently. This is in stark contrast to today. The trajectory today is different, but to understand how it's not enough to look at Oliver Anthony. Notice the second most trending video. The One Piece trailer on Netflix. What is the point of that trending? In fact, I see it's also trending on X right now. Netflix is known for making anime live-action bombs. Like Cowboy Bebop. November 19, 2021. Cowboy Bebop live-action bomb Netflix. November 19, 2021. Battlefield 2042 worst game of all time lists. Note it was timed to another bomb. This tells us the failure was intentional. Cowboy Bebop was famous for being popular in the USA when it first released. This was a rare case back then and likely tells us it was designed to facilitate the dumbing down of the American system. One Piece, on the other hand, the exact opposite. Famously, it had the worst adaptation treatment of all time, turning guns into toys and cigarettes into lollipops. This was inexplicable given it was the most popular manga in Japan. It was handled by the guys who did Pokemon, which itself became the most popular anime in the West and East. The infamous story is they didn't actually watch the show before buying it. One Piece was supposed to fail in the West back then, but now the creator of One Piece has gotten on board with this to defy expectations and be what may be a good adaptation. This begs the question of what One Piece symbolizes and why it wasn't allowed in the West before. The answer is one I go into here. The point was in media intended to educate masses of children about philosophy. It begins with a child causing self-harm and then being given a role model to look up to. The story is a therapy, teaching a healthy way to react to trauma. The icon of the straw hat was a symbol of a cheap solution to a large problem of criminal behavior across the country. Not allowing in the West before is tantamount to keeping people dumb and malleable. Looking at comms tied to casting choices. August 25, 2003. One Piece live-action Luffy born. August 25, 2003. Hey Ya, positive music, meme song. Hey Ya, meme was tied to a meme that speeds up every time it's repeated. Could be comms tied to the overall direction we are going. October 25, 2009. Hey Ya, official video meme. October 25, 2009. Ivanka wedding at Trump National Golf Club. October 25, 2009. Charlie bit my finger becomes most popular YouTube video of all time. This is just me looking for interesting dates, sometimes it's coincidental. It all comes down to context. I can't tell if that's meaningful above despite exact dates, but many times even without exact dates it's a clear symbol. Tweet. Here's one I found this week. November 21, 1942. Tweety Bird debut. November 24, 1942. First unambiguous evidence of the Holocaust in the news. A canary in a coal mine defined by screaming for help. A story of a predator. A character defined by their pursuit by predators. A symbol for the intent of publishing horrors going on against the helpless. A need to rescue. Returning to the start. This symbol of AI repeating his message with different voices and faces. The symbol of spreading the message. It ties into that Hey Ya meme getting faster each time too, though that could be coincidence. Either way, it's all very promising. One Piece Live Action sponsored this video with Silver Surfer beating Martian Manhunter. I have a hypothesis, but I should decode those characters before talking about it, so instead I'll just say it is interesting. Surfing, one in relation to the boat adventure One Piece. Do we surf the web? Telegram chat. Join the Decoding Telegram group. This has been Post Alone, AI and Programming.